What's happening, people? Shay here, uneven bounce. Hope you guys are well. So, in the words of Bing Rames, Pulp Fiction, 1994, we've got a lot of smiling motherfuckers up in the room today. It's obviously, unfortunately, England and me and Rajiv are licking our wounds once again as England reverts type and capitulates on the fifth day of this fourth Test match. Penultimate one, obviously heading to Old Trafford in a couple of days' time. England lose a Test match by 157 runs. India, led by mercurial talent Jasprit Bumrah, leads the way with a phenomenal performance and spell of reverse swing bowling to lead the charge at India as they take an unassailable 2-1 lead in the series. Here to discuss and gloat with me today about this, I've got Jaffa Merchant, Sayan Banerjee, Bashir Not, Krishna Kalki, Anurag Reddy, Aditya Mehta, and Rajiv Radhakrishnan back on the channel. Hot favourite from the last, the two pots we did ago, actually. So very, very happy to see Rajiv on the channel. I'm sure Krishna is happy to see Rajiv back again as well. We will start, obviously. Aditya's not got much time unfortunately, he has to go soon. So we will start with Aditya's opinion. I want to lead, as I mentioned before, with Jasprit Bumrah, a phenomenal bowler, a phenomenal talent. Very much gone, in my opinion, from zero to hero. After the World Test Championship final, he was cascaded in all corners. Lambasted performance there has shown his mettle, shown his ability on this final day to drag India over the line against his very fragile, brittle top 6 of England, top 11, let's be honest. Anyway, detail, I want to get into Jasprit Bumrah. Have we seen the best? He's turning 28 in December. Obviously, he's still, I wouldn't say he's young in fast bowling standards, but have we seen kind of really what he's about? Is he more, I think his average in the second innings, it's the opposite of Jimmy Anderson, for example. It dwarfs his first innings performances. Have we seen, or are we going to see a Jasprit Bumrah now kick on from here? Do you think he can get a lot better from here? What's your thoughts, and why do you think that the change just over 2.5 months? What's happened really with Jasprit Bumrah, and what's led him to perform so well in this series?
Well, to begin with, he's a genius. He's an incredibly smart fast bowler. He's got an astute brain that is made specifically for cricket. But what I really love about Bumrah is his ability to sort of reflect on his past performances and be brutally honest. Because you're right, he wasn't great in that World Test Championship final. But what we've also seen with Bumrah is that he's a sort of bowler who needs a lot of volume under his belt to be able to perform. And prior to the World Test Championship final, he didn't have a lot of overs in his legs, and he was quite clearly rusty, But that 25-day period between the final and the first Test certainly helped him. And as the Test series has gone on, he's only got better. But he's been unbelievable. In particular, you mentioned he's spearheaded that second innings bowling performance. What really stood out for me was the dismissal of Ollie Pope, which Michael Atherton quite brilliantly called on commentary. Where he was basically trying to get the ball straightened, and then he did that 2 or 3 times in a row, and then he jagged one back in, through Ollie Pope's defense. I thought that was brilliant. So he's really learned the art of setting up a batsman, and he's added his action doesn't naturally cater to an outswinging delivery, but somehow he's managed to get one that straightens and perhaps even drifts away from the batsman a little bit.
That's exactly what I thought. That it seems to the natural action is wide of the wickets.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, a lot of static. I don't know if it's someone, but there's a lot of static on my side. But okay, the ball seems to come in, but jagged away. It's almost like a cutter. He almost bought a cutter from a wider wicket, angling in. It was incredible to get rid of Pope. Pope would look to the ground, didn't he? Like he's just flummoxed, but he just done by just sheer brilliance. But sorry, DT, carry on. Sorry.
So that delivery, I'm told, he developed on this tour to Australia, the most recent tour to Australia, because up until then he was bowling the in-swinger quite regularly and quite effectively, but he felt like he needed to expand his arsenal a little bit, and so he brought in that delivery that straightens a bit and then can even move away, and he's used that to good effect in this series. So all in all, I think he's been outstanding, and according to rumors, he might be rested for that 5th Test match. So We'd like to see who can replace him, but either way, I think he deserves his rest.
Okay. Sal, I'll come to you. Obviously, I think he deserves. I've mentioned everyone here really the brilliance of him in this Test match. What was your opinions of him on the final day? Was you expecting such a great performance from him when you looked at obviously England holding all 10 wickets, or 77th no wickets going into that final day, requiring 289 runs roughly? Did you think that if anyone was going to win the match for India, it would have been Bumrah?
No, actually, I never like on that morning. I thought that it would be either England going for the win or the match would end in a draw because I thought it was near impossible for India to take 10 wickets on the last day. But also, I was watching the highlights today again of the last day, right? And that had Bumrah's last day of just about for 2 minutes or something, and that doesn't justify the 6 over spell that he did, right? Where he took 2 wickets. It doesn't justify that. The in nippers. I mean, I never expected Bumrah to perform that well because Umesh Yadav, Sehron, brilliant from that day, right? So I never expected it from him, but it was fucking brilliant.
Absolutely incredible stuff. Christian, do you think maybe that obviously signs there, and obviously I'm not asking the same question, but obviously the opponents of Bumrah, he obviously signed it, really expects that to happen. What was your feelings going into that final day? Did you think Bumrah was the man to lead the charge? Could it have been Siraj? Could it have been Thakur? Or was you also from the same perspective that you thought England were going to knock him off?
See, I definitely felt that in contrary to what Science said, I felt that it would be this game would end in a result genuinely because there was just too much hanging in the air. There was just too much tension that was created over I don't mean tension in terms of emotion, but tension in terms of the situation and the way the game was being played out. I thought that definitely either England would try and go for a win, and I thought we'd have like a similar to like a Ben Stokes or a Gabatoir kind of situation, or something similar to what happened in Lords, and that's kind of what we got, right? Where we had something similar to what happened at Lords, except it just unfolded a lot quicker, right? And if India were, I mean, of course, in my mind had like if when I was thinking about how India would win this match, I didn't think about any specific bowler. I just thought of it as a very combined bowling performance. I mean, as India really, at least with I mean, there are the odd days when Ishant gets 5 wickets or Bumrah gets 5 wickets or Shami gets a 4 or whatever, right? But most days, India tend to put on a complete bowling performance where everybody chips in with a couple of wickets, right? And I thought something like that would happen. I personally didn't think Shardul Thakur would have such an impact with the ball also in this game. And that was very surprising for me. But yeah, that's what I thought.
I go to you, Anurag. I mean, just before we move on from Bumrah, but I mean, do you think that maybe this is part of a new phase, or not a new phase of his career, but potentially something you could draw upon now to maybe take his game to the next level, continue to perform? Because obviously he's going to South Africa next, which I think those pitches will assist him quite well as well. For me, India have never really had an overseas fast bowler that can perform consistently overseas. They've always had, they've always been obviously a team of spinners over the years, not over the last 5-6 years. Obviously, produced some quality fast bowlers, someone consistently, and I think he's just got what I would cliche much it is, but the X factor. Just the way he runs in, the way he bowls, to be able to generate 90 miles an hour off what is basically about 4 or 5 actual skinny running paces is quite phenomenal. And the skill that he has with the ball and the control is excellent as well. Could we see maybe 5 years' time say this is possibly one of the best fast bowlers that India have ever produced?
So, Shay, to answer that question, so let me first say that was a brilliant spell of fast bowling. I mean, the intensity especially. So, let me go down the memory lane to the tours of 2011 and 2014, where MS Dhoni kept stressing in post-match conferences on how his bowlers were not used to playing those 5-match test series, the way they were not able to handle the rigors of the five test series. Now you compare it with this series. It's 4 matches on the trot for Bumrah, and the intensity in his spell. Every second ball was literally 140 plus. He was able to maintain that intensity throughout those 6 over spell. It was a very long spell for him as well. So I think that workload management, where the management were able to take care of these bowlers, needs to be commendable. I mean, it's commendable the way they've maintained the workload, the way the fast bowlers have. I mean, now are used to the rigors of Test cricket. So that is where I think we'll stand out as a bowling unit. it's not just one or two fast bowlers now, it's more than four. There are people waiting in the bench to replace the premier fast bowler. So I mean, now going to away tours, I think we'll be doing brilliantly, no doubt about that.
You know that Bumrah is exceptional when Anurag speaks more than 25 seconds. So you know that's there's obviously he's something we're talking about, right? Thank you, Anurag, as always. And Aditi, I want to come back to you because obviously I know you have to go shortly. Despite obviously Bumrah's heroics, Sharad Thakur being exceptional as well. We saw a magnificent 100, albeit it's dropped a couple of times, from Rahi Sharma, who got man of the match with 127. That really took the game away. You know, to make 4-6-6 in that second innings for India, to set it. You know, I mean, Thakur obviously came at 312 to 6. He put on 100 with pants, but Rohit's innings was phenomenal. You know, so what's your thoughts on him as well? Because he's another guy, it seems, where he's almost been given a little bit of a stigma, isn't it, when he can't play overseas? I mean, I know Sign's a bit of a stats guy, and he may tell you his average overseas going into this series. I'm not sure what that is off the top of my head, to be honest with you. 21 or 31? 21. And what's he averaging this series? It must have averaged stats, but it must be over 50. I mean, he's been exceptional. Maybe Sign bring it up now, but Aditya, I've just for now until Sign can chip in there. What's your thoughts on Rohit? I mean, he's 34, I believe now. Rohit Sharma, been around for a long time. I've been playing for Deccan Chargers all those years ago, you know. So, yeah, just I mean, what's your thoughts on Rohit Sharma? Obviously, do you think that he's someone now who can establish himself as one of the best batsmen in Test cricket in the world? Opening batsman, sorry.
Well, Rohit Sharma is translating potential into performance, and I think Nasir Hussain had summed it up perfectly a couple of years ago, that if Rohit Sharma is not playing Test cricket, I'm probably watching a different game. Rohit Sharma should have been in the Test team as an opener long before he was actually instated as an opener. And there's no doubt that he's a quality player. But what he's done remarkably well is that he has curtailed his natural instincts to go after the ball, because it's his patience that has stood out. And I like the way he thinks about his batting. You know, he knows that if he bats time, the runs will come. So he's challenged himself to bat 150 balls, 200 balls. You know, and he's been able to do that consistently through the Test series. You know, even though at times, you know, we'd get frustrated that he's out for 36 because he's played, you know, a ridiculous pull shot that he didn't need to. But you know, you can sense that there is a process there, and he has been sort of understanding conditions and acclimating well. So extremely happy for Rohit Sharma. He deserves this, and I'm sure there are many more overseas hundreds to come.
Thank you, Aditya. Does anyone else want to comment on Rohit Sharma before I go to Rajiv in England? Sam, did you get the stats up?
So he's averaging 48 this series, and before he was averaging 21 or 27. I exactly don't remember. And he was bad. I don't think he opened the innings right before when he played in England. So yeah, that's a massive difference.
Okay, Chris, did you want to give some quick words on Rohit Sharma?
I think with Rohit Sharma, personally, I felt for a very long time that he's India's most important batsman. Look at what he did in the World Cup. You look at what he did you look at what he did in Australia. Like, at least in that Border Gavaskar series, he had a couple of innings there, and especially what he's done in this series and what he did against South Africa back at home in 2019 in India. Rohit Sharma for me is just I think for me over the last decade, in terms of Indian cricket, he's the cricketer that's grown the most, in my opinion, from being this shoddy middle order batsman who bats at 4 or 5, doesn't really know what he's doing, to this flamboyant opener who can play all kinds of situations and really take the team forward. He kind of reminds me of Virendra Sehwag of the olden days, the times that Virendra Sehwag would just go out there and blast a 300. Of course, we haven't seen that yet from Rohit, but who knows? That day might come. And I'm just really happy for Rohit Sharma that he's found runs overseas, especially, and a lot of people doubted initially when Rohit Sharma was placed in the test team as an opener, saying, is it right to bring him in as an opener now when he's 34, when there's guys like Mayank Agarwal, there's guys like Prithvi Shaw, Shubman Gill, all these beautiful talents, isn't it? Shouldn't we groom them? Why do we need to bring in Rohit Sharma? So there's a lot of those kind of questions going on. But I mean, it's great that Rohit Sharma has found himself as an opener, both in overseas conditions and at home.
Thanks, Christian. Very well put. Rajiv, unfortunately, from the sublime to ridiculous, we'll obviously head to Rajiv now. Obviously, not talking about Rajiv, of course not. We're obviously talking about England's batting. So, obviously, want to get your opinion, Rajiv, on this. It has been. Sorry, Rajiv, it's quite. Did you just turn your mic up? Is it or?
No, it's my fan. Sorry, I had my.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I know it's
in this Indian summer that we're experiencing.
Yeah, it was just about saying more ways than one. We obviously, unfortunately, not having the same success with our batsmen. Ollie Pope, obviously, I've given him a lot of criticism, but his 81 that first thing showed what he's capable of.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I think you mentioned before in the last pod, if I felt Root was going to fail at some point and that would expose England, which it ultimately has. Is it a case, really, of we're just not as good a team, let's start with the batting for now, a team as India? Is that just simply a case of the stars of align where India is a far better side at this moment of time? Or should we be expecting more, do you feel, from the English batsmen, considering its home conditions?
Yes and no to answer your questions. I think what we have to look at is, yes, England's batting unit hasn't the top six fired as it should do, as you would expect an England side to do. But then again, if you look at India, just like England, it's the middle lower order that are bailing them out all the time. Not all the time, that may be a bit harsh. But, I was there on the first day at the Oval. And again, it shouldn't be up to Thakur. It's great that he's coming in at number 8 and getting a 50 in both innings. But it's not up to him to be doing that. It's a bonus. And you'll find that throughout the series, there has been that middle lower order that are bailing them out on both sides. So England in the first innings, definitely, and India in the first innings, both at the Oval. And I think another thing is that in the second innings, when Hamid and Burns went out to bat, it's great that they put that platform together, 100 partnership. That's brilliant. But there's two things about that. A, it didn't kick on further. They're getting these 60s and 70s. They're not making the daddy hundreds, as Graham Gooch used to like to say. And on top of that, the way they're approaching it, it's almost too cautious. And they're going, they're taking a very long time to get these runs. Maybe if they went out with a bit more positive intent to get the runs quicker, aim for that sort of 4 run per over run rate, like the way the great Australian side did, or the great West Indian sides used to do in their heyday. At the moment, it's like we're really so worried about our wicket. We're going to put a high price on the wicket. Don't get me wrong, that's important. But it's almost like sheltering them, and they're in their shell, and they're just plodding along, just desperate to get to 50. And when they do, they've taken up 150 deliveries, and they've spent 3 hours there. They are now mentally exhausted. And now, just like the way Mark Ramprakash used to struggle up to 25 when he was playing, it's just an extension of that. But we're in the 50s now, so obviously a big markup. But it's just taking them too much time, and the mental energy, they're exhausted, and therefore they will make silly mistakes like Hamid did by running out who's the number 3, David Malan.
David Malan.
David Malan. And then he also chipped one up just after he got to 50 and of Jadeja's bowling, and Bumrah, it was Bumrah, wasn't it? Siraj. He dropped that absolute sitter. And I think that is reflective of the fact that they're just tired by the time they get there. So for me, and I think also going back to the batting, I think I mentioned it on another podcast, it's a pandemic, if you don't mind me using that word, across all the cricketing nations, where apart from Steve Smith, Williamson, Root, and Kohli, I know Kohli hasn't had a great series for his standards, people can't average now more than 40. It's a struggle for everyone because of the diet of that T20 trash, which I won't go into. But so, I think it's a combination of those things. So I don't think it's just an England issue with the batting.
Do you think maybe that's the reason why Hamid and Burns, obviously the current openers for England, there's been a merry-go-round, hasn't there, since, especially since Cook retired, and even since Strauss left. It's one of the reasons maybe why the batting is such a pedestrian pace, because they're uncertain of their own positions in the side, but also maybe lacking confidence in people behind them, except for Root. And also knowing the likes of Ben Stokes aren't into the team either. Is that what might be affecting them?
Yeah, I think they are scared of their own position. There is that selfish, and that's human nature. That's not a criticism. They're so worried about their own place. They don't want to take any risks. They don't want to, and they're taking this so much time. It's just, I mean, you guys are too young to remember, but it just reminds me of Ram Prakash in the 1990s, where he would take 3 hours to get to 25, and after that he's knackered and he can't launch from there. So I would suggest that to be a bit more attacking. I don't think they should be going straight to the Saywag kind of do it. They're not yet that established. Saywag did it on the back of a lot of confidence and a lot of talent. They could become that. I don't think Rory Burns could. He's not that type. He's past 30 now. Hamid maybe. But to go out there, and in the same way in 2015 when England finished that disastrous World Cup campaign in Australia, and Andrew Strauss took over as MD of cricket in England, and he said, go out there and express yourself, have no fear. And you see the immediate results of that change in ethos from 2015 all the way through and culminating in that famous victory in 2019. Obviously, one-day cricket and white ball cricket is different with the fielding restrictions and various other differences. But I think if someone can just say, the coaching staff, look, just go out there, don't worry about your place now. Go out there and let's try and get that platform of getting it 4 runs and over. It just seemed very slow going. And so having said that, to criticise what I've just said, I go back to that Lord's Test. I was there day one. It was thanks to Rohit Sharma, the way he set it up. The 2 openers on that day, they took their time and they did. But what's the key difference? They kicked on and one got 80 and one got 100. These England openers are not doing that. And that's the key difference.
My worry would be, though, I guess, in that perspective for G, that you're trying to turn batsmen into things that they're not. I think the approach to batting, such as Jay Surya, Sehwag, and Gale, that's a batting style of yesteryear in terms of Test match batting. I don't think you're going to see that very often. I think Rohit Sharma is obviously an aggressive batsman, done so well in white ball cricket. He's applied himself in the red ball arena, and I think great players like him can do that. I just think Haseem Mead has always been a fairly pedestrian batsman. Dominic Sibley the same way, but I do agree with you. I remember a guy called Adrian Griffith, if you remember, for the West Indies. He came in. Remember, he was opening batsman. I think left hand. I can't remember. I remember he batted the 70-odd balls mid-6. I can't remember his commentator at the time, and they were saying the same thing. If you're a ball eater like that, what Dominic Sibley was accused of as well, the problem with that is if you bat for 2-3 hours and make single-digit runs, you're just putting pressure on the side because you're letting the bowlers, never get on top of the bowlers. You referenced about Ramkash before. I remember watching him against South Africa in 1998, and in memory, he made 69 not out of 250 odd balls. And Barry Richards, remember, commentating and said the problem with that was you were never allowing South Africa to be out of the game, and you're putting pressure all around because you're not scoring a quick enough pace to force a victory. And I guess that's the issue but I think just because England, the thing is, we as England fans accept that level of batting because we're so brittle as a batting lineup. So we're like, I've been arguing, a mate of mine, Simon, is like saying about Dominic Sibley criticising him for being so slow. And I was like, well, what would you rather have? Sam Robson, Adam Lyth coming in and just getting, scoring at a 60 strike rate and flopping at 25? Wouldn't you rather someone lay a platform like of Root, ideally a Stokes, a Pope, etc., Bairstow, Butler, stroke makers to come in and score runs quicker? Doesn't always work out that way, as we've seen, obviously. But it's an interesting point, really, Rajiv, I think. And maybe we can pick up a bit later. I do want to go back to the selection, the recall of Josh Butler and the merits of that. I want to quickly go to Aditya, then to Anurag, because I know, Aditya, you must be getting close, need to shoot off. So I want to discuss with you, Charlotte Dako, we all see Rajiv mentioned before. He made 250s in the match, took 3 wickets, I believe, to 2 and then 1 in the second innings. But got the key wicket to Joe Root, obviously, as we know, in that second innings. There was comments online I read, which might insult some of you, that he could replace Hardik Pandya as maybe the next potential bona fide all-rounder for India. Is this really just a flash in the pan? I mean, his first class stats, from what I saw, was bowling average is 28, batting is 18. I think that's also his first class. I'm not sure which state he plays for. You guys can lie to me with that, with Sharad Thakur, but maybe you can tell about the track. Okay, so is it Mumbai, Aditya? So you can tell him maybe, is that normal? Is it difficult tracks to bat on in Mumbai? In domestic cricket, you can get to in a second, but science saying no. It's okay, so cool. So his first class stats don't suggest that he's actually capable of maybe batting at 6 or even 7 for the Test side. Or is he capable of actually slotting into that kind of fourth seamer as we saw him in that last, on the final day, and batting higher up the order? What's your take on Thakur, Aditya?
So Shardul Thakur is an interesting story because he was considered to be a guy who could bat a bit, but was primarily a bowler. But then in 2019, he was playing the IPL for the Chennai Super Kings, and in the final, he was batting when Chennai lost by 1 run, and apparently he was devastated by that loss, and he said that he simply had to work on his batting because he couldn't allow that sort of situation to happen again if he was at the crease, and that perhaps led to a resurgence in his batting ability because up until then he was focusing primarily on his bowling. Not to mention that he's also struggled with weight loss over a period of time. He was quite an obese cricketer, and it's
Was
been a
he?
struggle.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's been an enduring struggle for him. So kudos to him. For him to be actually um, sustaining the sort of fitness levels that the Indian team now requires, is credit to his hard work, and testament to his desire to really play for India. So that's great. And his batting, as we saw, was quite technically correct. Uh, he wasn't really playing a flashy cricket. He was playing proper defensive, straight batting cricket, which was great. Can he replace Hardik Pandya? Or perhaps now the question should be asked: can Hardik Pandya replace Shardul Thakur? It's hard to tell because Shardul has put in the performances when the team really required it. He did it at the Gabba earlier this year, and he's now played, a match-winning Test match. With 250s in 2 innings and a couple of important wickets there as well. So, he's an inspired selection in my view. But what really impressed me was that of all the players in the team, Shardul Thakur is probably the one under most pressure because on the outside, everyone was hammering Kohli and Shastri for not selecting Ashwin. And so if Shardul Thakur failed in this game, it was like sounding the death knell for Shardul Thakur as well as Kohli and Shastri, whose reputations would take a hit, but not so much their positions. So for him to perform, he's probably played under the most pressure in this Test match, and he's really defined. I mean, he's delivered the defining knock for India. So kudos to him. But I'm sure there'll be chat about selection and whether Ashwin really should have been playing this match or not later on in the stream.
Thank you, Aditya. Aaron, I'll come to you. I want to Krishna because I've obviously been a Chennai super fan who had to get his take on Thakur. But Aaron, what was your take on Thakur? First of all, did you want him to be selected going to this full Test match? And what was your opinion on his performances?
Sure, adding to what Aditya had said, except for the 2019 IPL, we've seen glimpses of Shardul's batting even in 2018. If you remember the semi-finals where he had helped Faf du Plessis cross over the line against the match against SRH, we've seen he had the capability of giving some lusty blows to the boundaries. So we've always seen him play a knock here and there, but we haven't known that he had this kind of a potential to play a smart innings, a very calculated one. If you compare it with the first innings, the second innings was a very calculated one. He took his time. He ensured that we played more number of balls so that the Test match would prolong and England would have lesser time to bat. So that way he was very calculated. But when it comes to selection, if you would select him over Hardik Pandya, that is a very difficult one to answer because coming back to home conditions, the top 6 batsmen would complete the batting there itself. I don't think Shardul Thakur's services would be required anywhere. But on flatter pitches, Shardul Thakur's swing or his nip in this on the pitch, I think that won't be effective anyway. So then if I would select him in the home conditions, then no. But in away conditions where the ball would swing, definitely Shardul would be as my fourth seamer.
Thanks, Aaron. Krishna, I'll come to you. I mean, good point Aaron has made there. Is he more of a horses for courses bowler? You imagine just like Jesse Bumrah has mentioned before, plays home and away, no matter what the surface, because he's that good. Is that more of a guy you bring in on occasion, depending on the wicket and the conditions? You obviously seen him up close and personal for a number of years now. I'm sure you tell us obviously your opinion and what you felt. I mean, do you feel like this was unsurprising for you because you know how good the guy is, or maybe you don't. But what was you surprised by his performance in this Test match?
It's very hard because Shardul Thakur is that kind of character who's just so mercurial. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what he gives you, but you don't expect him to be the Shardul Thakur you're seeing today. You don't expect that because you look at him. He doesn't have the ability or the skill that somebody like a Siraj or a Bumrah possesses. Right? He doesn't have that in-your-face kind of bowling. He doesn't have that. Nor does he have the batting prowess of a Hardik Pandya who can hit sixes at will. Who he's not. You start to wonder what is Shardul like. At times you wonder what is Shardul Thakur doing in the team, but then he comes there, he surprises you with a 50 here and a 50 in the second innings, a 50 in Gabba, right? And like you just and then he takes two very important wickets of that too in the second innings, and you don't even know what to expect. And that's been like that's always like I think Shardul Thakur has been one of India's most, at least in the last say 8 months, even back at home when we played against England. Shardul Thakur was you just don't know why Shardul Thakur is there, but he's giving you something. He's giving you results. He's coming in at key moments. He's delivering you victories. And I don't know about horses for courses at all because I don't even know if I can answer that. I think it's just a matter of what kind of balance you're looking for, as opposed to whether it's flatter or whether it's it's seaming or swinging or whatever. I think it's India is looking for a particular balance on this track, and Shardul Thakur adds to that. Coming to the point of Shardul Thakur versus Hardik Pandya, now you just don't know. You really don't know, because once Hardik Pandya comes back, of course Hardik Pandya has been in terrible form for the last few months or so. Right, he had a good IPL, and after that, and even a pretty decent season in Australia, and then he just tapered off
against England at home as well. He was really good
against
England at home.
against England at home. He was all right. But he's kind of tapered off. Right, in Sri Lanka, he was just horrendous. So when does he come back into the team? Does he come back to the team? We have no idea. But and also I just feel that even though we're giving Shardul Thakur so much praise and he's performed so well, I feel it's very important for us to not get carried away as an Indian side. Because I don't know if this is just a run of good luck, and it's very likely that it is a run of good luck. But obviously I'm not saying that we should not play Shardul Thakur. I'm just saying we should not get carried away saying that okay, he's batting for us now, we can throw him in at number 7 and he can play that Hardik Pandya role that Hardik Pandya plays at number 7 for us. Like I think we're a little far away from that position right now. So let's just enjoy Shardul's success before we can go forward.
Well, the one neutral IPL fan here we've got is obviously Sion, being a KKR fan. So he's in Mumbai or CSK, as he probably hates them both, actually. So I'd like to go to the comparison with that. I mean, I think with Hardik Pandya, for me, it comes with like that kind of, that almost like that profile, that pizzazz, that kind of like that, that the ego comes with it. And it's like almost like his profile supersedes his ability to a certain extent, especially in the Red Bull arena. So I think people just expect Hart to come back in. But I think in regards to, obviously, them two comparison long term, I think Shardul's a couple of years older. Unlikely to get much better, you would say. What's your opinion, Sion, on this compared to two? Is this really not even a 2-horse race here for potentially next proper all-rounder for India? Are we failing to mention others? What's your take on it, really, Sion?
Before coming to that, I would just like to say, so there's this thing called CricViz, okay, and they put out a comparison. So they put out the exact balls that Shardul Thakur got wickets in, and those same balls that the other bowlers of the Indian team and the English team bowled. Okay, the difference was the balls that Shardul Thakur got wickets in, those were wicket balls. However, the ones that the other bowls, 75% or something like that went for boundaries. So can we just say he has a magic hand at this point of time? Also, I believe the thing with the straight shots is, if you see every Mumbai player, be it Prithvi Shaw, be it Rohit Sharma, Ajinkya Rahane, they love playing in that V area. I guess it's mainly because in the Mumbai clubs, my brother used to play that, and he said that the pitch is such that you can only hit straight on the clubs, right? You cannot quite hit square, because like if you hit square, it either bounces off the edge or something like that. It's pretty tough to hit square. So I feel that is one of his plus points, which Hardik Pandya unfortunately doesn't have, although he belongs from the same place. also the thing with Shardul Thakur is, yes, he might not have the bowling capabilities of a Bumrah or a Siraj, and he might not have the batting capabilities of, be it Hardik Pandya or anyone else, but he's just what we need, right? He's mediocre, but sometimes we should just celebrate mediocre, right? Like, be happy for it.
But it's more almost the fact that he's much more innocuous as a profile, as a person, and almost flies under the radar, that we don't get enamored with cricketers like him anymore. And just like, like workhorses, like Rajiv will know many England cricketer, like, Red Martin, Saggers, and people like that play for England over the past. Just workhorse cricketers, Mark Ealams, etc. There's nothing really about them in terms of personality, so you don't really want them, so you don't really care if they play or not to a certain extent. The stats are okay. The shoulder tackle, you kind of fall into that kind of category.
Yeah, so Shardul Thakur is a very strong character if you look at his backstory, especially. It's a very emotional backstory that he has. And also with that, I feel he's that kind of guy. He's a very good guy. He's a good guy, just good guy. So I like, for me, I'll be very happy if he scores against KKR in IPL. Like, except for batsman, if he scores, it's fine. Like, it's about that. It's about, for Hardik Pandya, I feel he has a bit of ego. If I'm not wrong, he's compared to Shardul Thakur,
a little bit. I mean, the guy's ego's off the chart.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Plus, he doesn't give me the same vibes that Shardul Thakur gives, right?
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's just about vibes, right?
That's what I mean. Yeah, I very much think that. But I mean, we talk about. Sorry, Krishna. Yeah, before I got to Rajiv. Yeah.
You're muted.
I just want to mention one point here. I think one of the reasons we're getting carried away with Shardul Thakur is because we're not expecting as much from him, but we expect a lot from Hardik Pandya, and I think that's one of the reasons why. Like,
I think it's a good point. That I think that's a good point. That
I think as Indians, anyone other than Vijay Shankar is fine with us. So yeah, Shardul Thakur.
You lot were batting for Bahari a little bit, for, picking up the full Test match lineup as your all-rounder. Anyway, Rajiv, I'm going to come to you. Obviously, we've got much more problems in the all-rounders department with the absence of, obviously, Ben Stokes. Sorry, Rajiv, this is the sound again. Sorry, man.
Sorry, I keep forgetting to turn off the fan.
So, no worries. We've obviously got Moeen Ali, and I'm starting to think more and more. I know it sounds like hate, but what's the point of this dude? Do you know what I mean? He bowls almost 30 overs without getting, bowling one maiden across 2 innings. He wasn't even trusted again from Joe Root, but he's made vice captain going into this match. Then he was going to be dropped because Jack Lee's been brought in. Now we're hearing that, the words on the cricket info homepage, Moeen Ali and Josh Butler to be retained for Old Trafford, like it's a horror movie headline for me to see those 2 names being retained. But I'm starting to think, what do they even know what they're doing with Moeen Ali anymore? Are they picking Moeen just because for the retained, especially for this Test match in Old Trafford, because he's the vice captain, because he was picked vice captain? To drop him would make them look even more ridiculous. I mean, the treatment to Moeen Ali over the past 2 years is borderline disgraceful, really. I feel for the guy. I said he wasn't even trusted on that in that second innings of India because he wasn't even bowling that well. I think his average was about 4.53 runs per over. He just doesn't offer control. I know he's the 3rd highest wicket taker for England now in Test matches, which is a really embarrassing from England's perspective, to be honest with you. I think he's averaging around 37, but I just want someone to kind of give me some clarification on what in Moeen Ali, what's 34 years old now he's turned. What is his role in the team? Should he still be playing for England in the Test arena? What are your thoughts, Rajiv, on this?
I think the issue with Moeen Ali is that no one knows what his role is, and they haven't known since he made his debut 7 years ago when India lost. Well, India came in 2014. He's been used as an opener. He's been used in the middle order. He's been used coming in at number 8. He's been used there as a spinner, part-time spinner.
Have you seen ever since? Go back, obviously, with your knowledge, a career more poorly managed than Moeen Ali. Someone who's played a lot of Test matches. Anyone else you can think is comparable?
I'm tempted to say Alex Stewart in a different way. He was still successful, however poorly managed he was. And the reason that is that Alex Stewart was shunted up and down the order with the gloves, without the gloves, with the captaincy thrown in. but he still managed to get through it and still have a very, very successful career. So I still think he was poorly managed, but the end product that he took it on himself to be the excellent cricketer that he was. I guess another one would probably Mark Ramprakash. They kept picking and dropping him, pushing him up and down the order. But with Ramprakash, there wasn't another role added into the mix like there is with Alex Stewart and Moeen Ali. So yeah, I mean, perhaps Devon Malcolm by Ray Illingworth, perhaps, but I think that was more of a 50-50 thing. So yeah, the thing with Moeen Ali is, they made him vice captain in the last test. That's great. And it's also a good outside of cricket. I think it was a good move. He did, just the fact that someone from an ethnic minority has been given such a prestigious position. It shows how inclusive England are, and they should be applauded for that. He didn't get it just because he's of South Asian Muslim extraction. He got it because he has got a good cricket brain. No one's denying that, and he has captained representative sides before. But I still think, even giving the vice captaincy to Josh Buttler, they're giving these very important roles to people who, I'm afraid, are not certain of their place in the side. Shall I move on to Josh Buttler, or do you want me to say anything more about Moeen Ali? Or?
No, is it lip service? Was it paying lip service to Moeen Ali because of his? How do you really feel he is? I mean, Jack Leach's been recalled. Jack Leach performed well in India. The guy performed well across the test match, and I appreciate there were helpful wickets. For me, now Joe Root said today that Moeen Ali's the number one spinner. That's what I mean. And Jack Leach hasn't bowled a ball in anger since the India Test series. I'm just absolutely dumbfounded by the whole treatment of England, with Leach and Moeen Ali. Sorry, Karen, you carry on, Rajiv.
Yeah, no, I can see that, and I also want to put in Don Bess in there as well. I think Don Bess has had a pretty good career so far, and I think more time should have been invested in him to come in as a specialist spinner, or Jack Leach. I think I prefer Jack Leach because he takes the ball away from the right-hander. I know India do have left-handers, but and also with England spinners, it's always been an issue since Graham Swan retired, and even he was only over a 5-year period. So if we look since the last 50 years, I think Graham Swan has averaged below 30, having played a significant amount of test matches, and even that was only over a 5-year period. So that search for spin has always been an issue for England, both bowling it and facing it. And it's been going on for a long time. And I think this is the end product that we're seeing. We're seeing a guy, England don't have a spinner, so they're taking a batsman, Moeen Ali, and making him into a spinner. So the damage has already been done at the grassroots level. We're seeing the end product now. And I think we just have to muddle our way through, which they're doing it. And my cricket coach, who coached me at Merchant Taylor's, Harry Latchman, who was a leg spinner for Middlesex and Notts, and was this close to playing for England and this close to playing for the West Indies. He didn't get a test cap in the end. And he told me that when he was coaching me, he was also the ECB spin coach. And he said, basically, captains are afraid of their spinners. As soon as a spinner gets hit, they're taken off. And then they're only given about 6 or 7 overs. And the spinners, a bit like the opening batsman that I was just talking about, they're so scared, they don't want to give the ball a big rip because it might be a bad ball. And therefore, they're looking to contain the batsman rather than rip one through and take a wicket. Now, if you listen to Shane Warne on commentary, he's saying, you're a spinner, you're there to turn the ball. And you are going to get hit as a spinner, but you've got to be attacking. Shane Warne's an attacking spinner, like Murali, like Kumble. And that mindset isn't there with England. It's a cultural issue, and it hasn't changed for the 35 years I've been watching cricket. Since I was 7, it hasn't changed. So, we have to muddle our way through. And now for this final test, I would have picked Jack Leach because he takes the ball away, and left-handers, I'll be biased, left-armers are, I think, better at spinning the ball than right-armers. And then we go back to the same issue with Josh Buttler. Again, there's confusion here because through no fault of his own, but Alex Stewart, he caused a lot of problems without realising it, because he was first picked as a batsman. He then definitely kept during youth cricket. He was definitely a very capable keeper. But then you suddenly had this influx of batsmen who thought, you know what, I'm going to start keeping in order to save my place or gain my place. So you've got all these batsmen now who are suddenly wicket keepers. And the standard of wicket-keeping is thus dropped, just like the way the spinning department is dropped, because these other batsmen are thinking, well, you know what, to retain my place, I'm going to go bowl a little bit of spin and I'll get in there, like the way Marinelli has. So the specialist disciplines aren't being developed for wicket-keeping and spin bowling. Pace has been all right. Jimmy Anderson has led the way there, along with Stuart Broad. So we're okay there. And Butler, yeah, he's a very fine wicketkeeper, don't get me wrong, and he's very good at white ball cricket, but they've retained him and they've dropped Johnny Bairstow. Now, I know I'm comparing very poor stats, but a very small statistics to make this argument, but the fact is, Josh Butler in this series is averaging 14. Bairstow is averaging 26. Now, neither of that is good. I know one is double than the other, but we're not talking 40 and 80, we're talking 14 and 26-ish. And he's managed to get a 50, Johnny Bairstow, and he's got a very good ball in the second innings at the Oval. And yet they're bringing Butler back in to keep wicket and dropping dropping Bairstow. I can understand why they're keeping Pope. Of course I can. It's just this muddled selection, but I can't blame the England management for doing it, because the trouble started 20 years ago or 40 years ago at the grassroots level. And we're seeing the end product.
Would you agree with G that Butler and Bairstow cannot play in the same team together because neither are good enough as a batsman?
No, I think
one can't play as a pure batsman, in my opinion. You can't have Bairstow as a pure batsman, who's the one who's they've generally gone to as a pure batsman. I don't think Butler can play as a pure batsman as well, and that's the problem they have. I do agree with playing only one of them, but for me, it should be Bairstow. You said the stats before, and Bairstow scored 50 in this Test series. Yep. Butler's averaging 14. It just feels like, because, as Root's quotes came out today, because the vice captain, that's why he's playing the side.
That's not a good enough reason.
It's just pathetic.
They dropped Shane Warne in Australia, that famous series. Shane Warne still hasn't forgiven Steve Waugh for that. In that last Test, Steve Waugh dropped Shane Warne. And, because he got completely humiliated by Brian Lara in the third Test and the second Test. And Mark Waugh, his younger brother, became vice-captain for that Test. They had to get... And Shane Warne still goes on about it 20 years later. But you can drop the captain, you can drop the vice-captain. No person in that team is indispensable, not even Don Bradman. And they dropped Don Bradman once. So, it can happen. But... I think the thing with the England cricket team is that after a period of the 90s when it was all dire, and then the decade moved from the 05 Ashes onwards under Michael Vaughan, things did start to get better. But I still think a lot of paper was papering over a lot of cracks. There wasn't a sound system in place. There still isn't. And if you just look at the Australia model, and perhaps even the India one, which I don't know too much about, even when Australia had that glut of players of that golden era leaving, their descent wasn't that quick like the West Indies, which didn't have a system to fall back on after the West Indies declined after 1995. You look at the Sheffield Shield, they still had strength. So even though Australia aren't winning 16 Test matches in a row now, like they used to, they still have a system that can still win the World Cup in 2015, still get to the semi-final in 2019, still win Ashes handsomely at home, and in England, only lose 2-1. These aren't disastrous things. And yes, I know India beat Australia recently, but it wasn't like, okay, that one was pretty one-sided. But generally, Australia have a system to support. And now India seems to be reflecting that as well. That domestic structure seems to be producing these kind of players. And we're seeing them now in IPL when we wouldn't have seen them before. But maybe I'm going off point here, but the England system and adding that stupid 100 to make it a full disciplined in county structure has just ruined it. And we need to go back to that traditional 4-day county championship, grinding out the runs, so that you can average 60 in county championship, which makes you average about 45 in Test. I'm not even sure these guys' first-class average, Josh Butler's first-class average is about 31 or something. He's scored four first-class centuries. He's 30, he must be what, 32?
He's 31 now, he turned 31 this month.
And four first-class centuries, and you're batting him in the top 6? Come on. It's
I think the problem is with England, the ECB, they've got it's almost a question of finances over development of the Test side, it seems nowadays, because if you saw the itinerary for the South Africa series, and actually the home summer next year has been announced, New Zealand, India come back for a white ball tour, and all the white ball cricket is being played. Like basically, they end the Test series against New Zealand at the end of June, And
Next
then there's
year.
all white ball cricket until the end of August, the middle of end of August. So the whole, a lot portion of the peak summer, people are at summer holidays, people, generally to warmer months, is all devoted to white ball cricket. It's all white ball cricket. And basically, the test series, just 3 test match series against New Zealand and South Africa, bookend what seems to be more important, because the 100, I'm sure, will fall in that time as well, that kind of 6-7 week block. And that seems to be what their concentration is now. I think the reason why they kept Butler and keep back to the kind of established names, because they don't want to ruffle too many feathers and shake the boat too much before the Ashes, because they want to probably go with this. This is the nucleus of the team. Whether you get waxed 5-0, which almost certainly will do, almost guaranteed that, you put your hat on that. Unless Root gets 3 or 4 guys to back him up, because it looks like Ben Stokes might not be in the play anymore either. Let's forget about the quarantine restrictions, etc. If England go with a full strength side, barring Stokes and Archer, it's nowhere near good enough. That's the problem.
It's not. It is just too weak. There's a soft underbelly there beneath Joe Root. There's a huge gulf between him and the next best. He failed.
He scored 600s this year in 2021, and the rest of the batsmen have scored 1 century. That's Rory Burns in the New Zealand Test Series. 1 fucking century between all these fucking pricks, all of them. 1 century. We're in September. None of these pricks have scored 1 fucking century between them. Joe Root 6. What is going on?
And not just 6; these are big hundreds.
And they worry why we're so shit as a test team. When the conditions help us, like in Headingley, then everything's fine. Everything's fucking Yankee. Everything's perfect. But when we get onto a flat track, when the sun's beating down, we've got some wank spinner coming on, because we don't want to pick a proper spinner. We want to pick some. Basically, guys not good enough in either faction with bat or ball. So we go to Moeen Ali because it's a safe option. There's no nuts in this side, no cojones, you know what I mean, in the selection. They're too scared. Why? You're showing in your selection. You don't give a fuck about the test team anyway. So why not throw a Matt Parkinson, for example? It's his own fucking ground. Why not give him a go? He's done well this year in red ball cricket.
And there's also there's a good leg spinner coming through.
Fucking names get churned out every time. Moeen Ali, Josh Butler. It's harder to get out of the side than to get in it.
I know.
It seems to be nowadays. Fucking does me head in, man.
There's a good leg spinner, 16, 17-year-old chap.
What, Charles Lennon of Sussex?
Plays for Sussex.
Archie Lennon, yeah.
Just give him a go and just stick with him. And I think that's the problem with England. They don't. I mean, it's not so much.
Just
like
Alan Riley, you probably be working in the City in 5 years' time. He's never got an opportunity. Just like Alan Riley was classed as a good off spinner. Like Alan Riley for Kent was excellent. He's now working in the banking sector. He's at 25 years old.
And especially that. No, it's a shame. And what's really disappointing is, even though the ECB, as you say, perhaps are just going all white ball because England are world champions. I went to the Trent Bridge test, I went to the Lord's test, and I went to the Oval test. And every single day I went, the Lord's and the Oval were the day 1s, and Trent Bridge was day 3, a bit rain affected. The crowds were full. It was a great atmosphere. And I think the players and the crowd, despite what the administrators have done and stuck it at the back end of the season, everyone there was having a great time. You could see the smiles. And I'm not just saying because it was post-COVID. The enthusiasm shown by the Barrett Army, who I was sitting with, and at the Oval, and the energy and the banter between both sides. There was no aggression. There was no, it was all good-humoured when England got a wicket or India got a wicket. Everyone was laughing with each other, and it was brilliant. And I think we need to give a lot of credit to the crowd and the players who provided us with this kind of entertainment. And I think the Barrett Army deserve a lot of praise for bringing that energy, music, colour, and spice. They gave me some lovely samosas while I was sitting with them. So it was all good. And it was just great.
What's the samosa they give you? Veggie?
It was veggie. It was definitely veggie, yes.
Oh, okay.
I prefer them to the meat ones. I
actually like them, I like
prefer the veggie samosas.
Yeah.
But it was just great. It was just fantastic. And I'll just tell you a silly thing that happened. I don't know if I was caught on camera, but there was a beach ball being thrown around the Oval and it landed with me. I got up and I had a brown napkin, which sort of looked like sandpaper. So I got up and I did that. And I don't know if I got it on camera. I haven't checked. But anyway, it was just good fun. Good fun.
No, it's very much playing good spirit. I actually love the fact that Coley was taunting the Barmy. I can't stand the Barmy Army, to be honest with you. My experience of seeing matches, and also, I love that. To be honest with you, I love Coley doing that. I mean, Regine, I can't do a pod with you and Krishna both on here without mentioning or get your take on Virat Kohli very quickly. We've got to wrap up in about 5 minutes. But what are your? I mean, obviously you weren't around for the third Test match. You obviously went to the full Test match. What were your thoughts on Kohli? I mean, I assume you're still kind of disgusted by his body language at times, but has he maybe calmed down a little bit?
Yeah, I didn't notice it this much at the Oval as much. I did like the fact that he tried to get the crowd engaged by, raising his hands to, clap and everything when the bowler was running in. You know what? Don't get me wrong from my last thing. He's a passionate guy. He so wants India to be number one. I can see Jafra shaking his head. But he's at that age where your late 20s, early 30s. You've still got a lot of energy, passion inside you as you mellow into your late 30s. In theory, like I did, sort of, you sort of calm down and realize and put a bit of perspective. But it's great to see him. He's an icon in India. Probably now approaching kind of demigod status of Tendulkar, perhaps, I don't know. I don't want to criticize the guy, but I thought at times in the last podcast maybe he got a bit too much. And Headingley, came and sort of bit him in the ass, which was, I did mention it could happen, and it did. So I'm just saying. But now look, the tables have reversed.
I really wanted you on that last stream, man, after England won. I thought that'd be amazing. I mean, that would be just gold, man, gold if you were on that at that time.
I know, I know. So I was watching it, and I know you guys must have been messaging each other or talking about me when I said it could happen, and it did on that first day. Bowled out for, I think, was it 78? I can't remember. I forgot 78 years. But Old Trafford.
Was it 78? You know for what it was, man.
To two decimal places. But Old Trafford, I'm looking forward to. I hope the weather holds, especially since it's Manchester. And Manchester spins. So hopefully we will see the greatest spinner in the world play. I don't know why he can't get into the Indian side. It's like Gavaskar when he played for India and came back to Mumbai. He couldn't get into the Mumbai side, but he could get into the Indian side. So I don't understand how the world's best spinner can't get into the Indian side, but there we go. Anyway, and I'm not just being biased because he's from Tamil Nadu. Thank you.
There we go. Great. Okay. I'm not going to ask these guys' opinions on England because I know how shit we are, so I don't want to get rubbed in, to be honest.
Can I just say one thing? Please?
Yeah, go for it, man.
Why is Amir Virdi not there on the side? We've been talking about this for years.
He made 47 against Northants yesterday.
Amir Virdi, man. What a guy. What a cricketer. Like, he's so good. I don't understand.
Because he's an out-and-out spinner, and we hate them. We like spin bowlers who can average 30. That's what we want. We want a spin bowler.
You guys might as well take in Darren Stevens at this point. That guy just hit a century, right?
Yeah, very quick century. Yeah, but he's 45 now.
Well, Aravinda De Silva, the great Sri Lankan batsman, he said when he played county cricket, he said English spinners, they can't even turn it in a tumble dryer. So he said that in 1995. I don't think much has changed since.
Much has changed since then. Yeah. God, he was a good player, that guy. Just a bit. Yeah, it's. I think the selection's all, as I said before. We'll see what happens going into this Test match. I mean, as I said before, the homepage of Cricket Info really was like a horror movie to me when I saw that Moeen Ali and Josh Butler to retain for the Old Trafford Test match. But that's what it's to be. Do you think there'll be any changes, guys, in terms of India? Will we see Ashwin play? Will probably be his last tour, I imagine, to England.
Yes.
We're going to see him.
You have inside information?
Can I get a wild guess? In place of Hane, get Jadeja up there, Shardul, Ashwin, done.
You don't want... But Jadeja hasn't done anything wrong.
No, he was saying
move Jadeja.
He said Rahane to be dropped.
Oh, right. Oh, and put Jadeja... Well, he came in at the Oval. He came in at number... he came in ahead of Rahane. If Pant came in ahead of Rahane, that's really saying something. But, no. But another thing, Pant, I think... he deserves a little bit of discussion. I don't think he got 50, I know, but I think we expected a bit more from him, I thought.
I think he's 24 years old, isn't he? He'll learn a lot from this talk.
Yeah.
I think he'll come better in the next one. I think I think Rahani will play actually at Old Trafford. I think that Coley will stick with him for this final Test match. I think, you know what, we're 2-1 up, even though Rahani has played so bad. I think they'll give him the entire series, and then I think he might get dropped. I think that's what's going to happen. I don't think they'll drop him for the final Test match. I think if Ashwin comes in, you have to see how the fitness is. I think he said that Bumrah might be dropped for this Test match, so maybe Ashwin comes in for him. I could see Yardev making way potentially. You know,
Yadav took six.
I know, and he offers that something. I just think like if Bumrah's going to play, they might just do something left field, like maybe drop Yardev because they want to stick. I mean, on the Siraj, I heard he's got a bit of a niggle as well. Maybe they drop Siraj to bring in Ashwin. But I think either way, look, you bring Ashwin for one of the fast bowlers. Your batting's already strengthened, right? So
I think if you look at it, you're saying. I mean, so right now, you're saying Siraj has a niggle, and we're gonna rest Bumrah. Right?
No,
So
I didn't say that.
means
No, I think you said they're going to rest.
No, that's just hype. I'm not saying you're saying. I'm just saying hypothetically. Right? These are the two changes that are likely. Right? So, Ashwin comes in, and you bring in Shami, right? Because that's the only other seamer you have.
Shami has a niggle.
Shami has a niggle as well. Okay, so who else do we have then?
Prasidh Krishna.
Yeah,
Prasidh Krishna. We have Prasidh Krishna, right? So we can probably
no
play
signs
him as well.
on that, I'm sure.
Yeah, Prasidh Krishna is somebody we can probably play. I think, I would actually agree with you, Shay, that India will definitely play Rahane until the end of the series.
Yeah.
I think any decisions that will be made on Rahane will be made after the series. But I mean, if it were up to me, I'd play Surya Kumar Yadav. I just want to see him play. Like I really do. He's just so good. I got so much flair.
I'm telling you, he might be a great white ball batsman, but looking at his technique, he cannot play the in-swingers. Same for George Butler.
I mean,
we'll have to wait and see, guys. I just think Rahane, I think to drop him now, I think given the full series and say, you had your fair chance. You had a full.
Yeah, you guys won at least one walking wicket, right? So
give us a glimmer of hope. Unlikely, but there we go. Rajiv, does Jimmy Anderson play?
Of course. He
looked knackered in that second innings.
The interesting thing, at the end of the post-analysis, they were asking Nazar Hussain about this. And Nazar Hussain said, I'll do it the old-fashioned way, which I sort of didn't really appreciate what he was saying. And now I get what he was saying. He just said, go up to the bowler and say, are you fit enough? And if the bowler says, yes, I am, then you bowl him. And you can't think, what if he breaks down in the middle of the thing? Well, you can't think that. You've picked a bowler. He plays. He's professional. He knows what he's doing. He's been playing for England for 20 years or whatever it is. No one else will know. It's his home ground, and frankly, he's the best bowler in England. So you can't manage these bowlers. And also, he hasn't exactly played a lot of county cricket this summer. The only overs he's bowled in first-class cricket is probably these 4 Test matches. And on top of that,
he's played for Lancashire.
Okay, but nothing like the days when Ian Botham was playing. He's not carrying those kind of overs. And also, Monday, the Test match finished. He didn't take part. He only came out to bat. If England bat first on Friday, he's got 5 days off. If not, it's 4 days off. That's a pretty good game. And they do spend a lot of time in it. I'm not trying to say that bowling's easy. Of course, I'm not. But to answer your question, Jimmy Anderson should play. I can't see anyone else replacing him to make the team better. And that's what you're going to do. If you're going to drop someone or rest someone, you're only doing it in order to make the team better, or if it's a dead match, etc. Here, it's certainly not a dead match, and you can't replace someone to make the team better with Jimmy Anderson.
Could it be the last time we see Jimmy Anderson play for England?
No, he'll go to the Ashes. Jimmy Anderson's 39, and I think he will go. I think he wants one more final dig. He's not going to be in the he's not going to be in the T20. His record in Australia isn't that great, but then again, no one really is. And he's not going to be in the T20 World Cup beforehand. And I think he will go there. Usually at the end of an Ashes series, there's usually some kind of career end, some kind of report about the state of English cricket. It doesn't happen at the end of a series against India or West Indies. It's always against Australia. That's considered to be the benchmark. I'm not sure why when India just beat Australia. But that's usually the cycle, especially if it's a tour to Australia. They come back and it's full of reviews and we're going to change the county this and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Nothing ever happens. And it's been the same for 35 years. We'll still play X amount of cricket and we'll still do exactly the same thing. So those stupid reports will carry on with about 1 or 2 minor changes. You call the chairman of selectors national selector. That's the only thing that the report did in 2007. We changed the name of the selector, chairman to national. And, that was considered worth doing a 3-month report on England's progress.
Yeah. Krishna, let's go to you, mate.
Yeah. For the next test, I was just thinking, if you want to bring in Jack Leach, right? For Moeen Ali, I think that's probably the most easiest swap. I would probably do that. Would you be confident?
Craig Overton as well.
Would you be? Yeah, you could do Craig Overton, but the problem is you have a little bit of At least, do you really need 2 spinners? Is my first question.
I think Mark Wood's got to play. I said in the last test match, Mark Wood's got.
You want 4 seamers, right? You want 4 seamers.
No, but Ruth said he'll play 2 spinners.
He won't. That's bullshit. He just saying that to keep Leach on tenterhooks. There's no way they're playing 2 spinners. I'll be shocked if they play 2 spinners. They're going to play Mark Wood for Craig Overton, and they'll play Moeen Ali. Leach won't play.
So, but if you want to play, so I was just thinking, if you want to bring in Leach though, would you trust Wokes to bat at 7, right? And then you can play Mark Wood, you play James Anderson, you play Ollie Robinson, and then Jack Leach, right? So
Moeen Ali will play. Well, Leach.
No, I say bring in Jack Leach for Moeen Ali and play Wokes at 7. You think that's a little too weak and trust Leach at 8?
The problem is that the reason why they're shoring up the batting is because, like with Sam Curran initially, is because they've no trust in the top 6. That's the problem. So they're trying to pack the lower order. But it's not worked, has it? We had Robinson, Craig Overton, Moeen Ali, Wokes from 7 to 10, then Jimmy 11, and we still got waxed, right? It doesn't matter. So for me, yes, you want to take 20 wickets, and obviously fairly cheap if you can. You should play Jack Leach. Surely play a proper spinner. Play Jack Leach. He did nothing wrong in India. He did very well. For me, I bowled Moeen Ali is the Chennai Test match. It wasn't it? Where I think I played together, and I believe he bowled. I felt he bowled Moeen there. I think you got to go for broke. Yeah, if you got to play Wokes at 7, play Wokes at 7. Yeah, I mean, listen, you've done it right. You played 4 number 10s, 8 to 11. You're leading the series, right? And you've got Rahane and Pujara bang out of form, and Pujara's been average, and you're still leading the series. And Kohli's not done really that much, really, as he's averaging 35 something like that. So, yeah, I think you should go.
And Leach can bat. Leach can bat at 8. I think Leach is a pretty decent 8, number 8.
I think Robinson would go 8, and then Wood, Leach, and Anderson. 9, 10, 11.
But I think Wokes at 7, I think is slightly high for him. I would have him for 8, but for this particular, you're limited on choices here.
They need to win.
They need to win
20 wickets, right? Got to 20 wickets.
You need to win every Test match. So I think Robinson has done brilliantly. I know he's handled the off-field issues very well, and we can put that aside. We don't need to discuss that. So. Something that he did 10 years ago, we don't need to delve into. But he, he's done brilliantly. He's come out and performed fantastically. I'm surprised though that they're picking him at the age of 27. What was he doing? Well, we know what he was doing a few years ago, but why wasn't he picked when he was 23 or something? Would have been better. But anyway, 27 is not the end of the world. I think
plenty of miles in those legs. Yeah.
And also, I think, just to reiterate, I think it's been a great series. I've absolutely loved it. I've been captivated by it. I've loved going to the games. Shame I'm not going to Old Trafford, but, it's been, for me, one of the best series I've seen. And that innings I saw of Thakur on Thursday at the Oval, I don't know if any of you were there, but it was or watched on TV rather, to be in that crowd and watch Thakur come in at number 8 and score that 50 off 30, whatever it was one of the most fantastic sights to see, and probably one of the best days of Test cricket, if not the best I've seen. I saw 13 wickets fall, and the ebb and flow. It was just a microcosm indicative of why we love Test cricket. And I think the sides and the crowds really, like I said before, really have to be applauded for what they've done for the game.
Absolutely, Rajiv. Absolutely. Okay, we'll wrap up there, guys. Just quick predictions for the 5th and final match. Christian, you might abstain on this, but I know Sion won't. So, do you want to give me your predictions? Maybe tell me quickly, run off your team lineup with your prediction. Any prediction? Sion, you go. I'll go round.
So, for India, I would go Rohit Sharma, KL Rahul, Pujara, Kohli, Jadeja. Then it was there Shardul.
Pant.
Yeah, Pant, Shardul, and the bowlers with Ashwin in, of course.
Who's
for
the bowlers?
England,
Who's your trio of fast bowlers?
so it's Umesh Yadav,
Yeah.
Bumrah if he plays, and then Siraj
Okay.
because Shami's out with an injury.
Dude, that's a total of 6 bowlers, man. 6 bowlers. It's insane.
Yeah,
Got to get 20 wickets. Well, you don't because you control the match, so yeah, you don't.
we can draw the match, right? So that's
But you don't want to go in with that mindset. You're going
Yeah,
to
definitely
win.
not. Cole doesn't understand that. He's not going to do that, is he?
Yeah.
so. Yeah, with
Okay.
England, probably I would leave out Josh Butler, but he doesn't have any replacements, right? So he will play. Is Besto in the squad?
Best in the squad still, yeah.
He's going to be dropped though.
It'll be between Bairstow and Pope, and Bairstow will make way. I
Yeah.
think Pope will stay.
But oh yeah, he's the vice captain, so he has to play, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. And prediction would be India winning.
India win. Krishna, India lineup and prediction, if you want.
India lineup, I think they'll probably go the same. I think the top order will remain the same. Bowlers, unless Siraj and Bumrah, unless they think about resting Bumrah and if Siraj actually is unavailable to play, they'll make the change and bring in maybe a Prasidh Krishna. You might see that. I don't see Ashwin playing this test match either. I really don't, because I don't see the need, at least now in the mind of Virat Kohli, I don't see him thinking that Ashwin is a necessity right now in terms of changing the lineup. The only reason why we're saying bring Ashwin is because we haven't seen him. It's not that it's in the context of this match. It's not necessarily something that India is thinking about. So I don't see Ashwin coming in. England lineup, I think it will be the top 4 will probably be the same. One of Johnny Bairstow and Butler will play. I don't think both will play. Ollie Pope will probably be there. I do see Moeen Ali, Jack Leach coming in. I think Jack Leach will come in. I think Chris Wokes will play at 7. I personally feel that will happen. Even though it may not be the most optimal thing, they do need Jack Leach's spin. So I think they'll do that. And like you said, Mark Wood most likely will come in, and Jimmy Anderson and Ollie Robinson. Prediction, I'm going to be very safe and say draw. And I'm not going to say anything else because I don't want to get hammered like last time. So.
Okay. Anurag?
Yeah, just 2 changes for me for India's perspective. So Ashwin in for Bumrah, and I'll finally drop Rahane and get in Vihari. And as for England, I'll rest Anderson, get in Markwood, and Jack Leach for Moeen Ali. And if the pitch is going to turn, then definitely India's going to win. If it's a flat track, then it'll be a draw.
No, still India.
Rajiv?
For me, there's a guy playing county cricket who's still better than any of those guys apart from Joe Root. I would ask Alistair Cook to come back. Sir Alistair Cook, I can't see why not. It's not going backwards. He's 35 or something.
36, yeah. 37 December.
37. Okay, fine. He's still better. I can't see any issue with doing that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Obviously, it's not going to happen. But for me, in terms of prediction, in terms of the India sides, yeah, I think the Ashwin factor is important. I don't think they will do it. I think Kohli, for some reason, he's stubborn about Ashwin. The reason he gave at the Oval about left-handers, I just couldn't understand that. I think there is some internal issue between Kohli and Ashwin. I really do. I've got no evidence to suggest that, but I can't see. I don't know, you're shaking your head there, but I don't know.
He just got selected into the T20 squad. So.
Yeah,
but is that chucking him a bone? He hasn't played for 4 years, the T20 side. Why is he all of a sudden jettisoned to the T20 side?
He's the world's best test bowler. And he can bat as well, but that's irrelevant. And then in terms of the England side, I don't believe in Jimmy Anderson being rested. I don't believe in resting unless it's a dead rubber or some pointless T20 in the middle of wherever it is. And I think judging by the way the series has gone, where it's 1 up, then 1 all, then 2-1, I'm going to say England are going to come back and win this. And I think that would be a fitting end at 2 all to say, how well both sides have played. I think a draw would be a fitting end.
Thank you, Rajiv. Right. Sorry, Krishna, last point.
Yeah, the reason why Ashwin was picked in the squad, I think, is very simple. India needed a right arm off spinner, and right now with off spinners, you only have left arm in Aksar, Sundar, Kunal Pandya. Yeah, so you needed a right arm off spinner who can bring the ball in to the right hand as well.
Varun Chakravarti would do the same,
but he's a leggy. They want a right arm off.
No, he's left-handed. He's not leggy. He's left-handed. Yeah, but the equivalent. Yeah.
Wanted orthodox. Okay. Fair enough, guys. Right. Quickly around the room. Where can we find you guys on social? Cyan?
So you can find me on Twitter at Jaffa Merchant and on Instagram at Bastionat.
Krishna?
Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, you know the drill.
Anurag?
Hey guys, you can find me on Facebook as Anurag Reddy and on Twitter as the obvious Mad Lad. Cheers.
Okay, Rajiv?
I don't have any hand movements, but anyway, you can find me on YouTube, Rajiv Radha. Not just, I've had interviews with various cricketers that are captured on YouTube, not just cricket, but other sports, history, which I love as well, movies, locations, and lots of other, and food as well. So go and see me there. I've got 180 subscribers now, I think. So it's growing, and I think Shay is one of them.
Absolutely. I love your little videos because it's very quick in like 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Those lovely little snippets. They're really cool. And I've seen over the years as well. So and it is growing. The channel's growing as well, Rajiv. So it's good stuff, man. I'm glad. And also Rajiv's written the book as well. Glorious. Is it the title's Glorious Summers?
No. It's My Life in Cricket 1986 to 2019. So it got privately published. It's in the Lord's Library now. You'll see that in there. And it got mentioned in the Wisdom Almanac. So I gave a copy to Graham Gooch at Lord's. He hasn't written a letter of thanks yet, but I'm hopeful. The only person who has written back to me is actually Alan Lamb. But you guys are probably too young to remember Alan Lamb. And I saw him at the Oval and I thanked him for the letter and he gave me a quick brush off. But there you go.
And Rajiv, you underestimate us, man. You really do underestimate us. We don't know Gooch, we don't know Lamb. Come on, man. Of course we know.
Well, I'll bring back Kapil Dev if I could for the Oval. He was a great hero of mine. And Nazruddin. For the Old Trafford, rather.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for coming on again. I know it's very late, especially in India. But yeah, it's been good fun as always with you guys. So thanks to DT as well, was on for the first half hour. And I will catch you for the post-match review of the fifth and final test match.
After
Thank God
3-1.
the series is almost over. Thank God. All right. Anyway, all right, cool. Have a good evening. Have a good day, morning, night, whatever. And I'll catch you on the next one. Take care, guys.
Cheers, guys. Thanks very much. Thank you. Thanks, Shay.
Bye.